Hello, and welcome to Chat and Shit about the Chaos Cup. Uh, Joined today by Drew, Jake, and Aaron. Um, Noticeably not by Dan, which is the first time in a while. He's been a busy guy recently, so he's not here tonight. But Dan and I have got something planned for this month, so that's good. Hopefully, that'll be something a bit different, and we'll get there. But how's everyone else doing?
Yeah, not bad. Glad to be back.
Yeah,
No.
can't complain. Other than being on a potato, nothing's bad.
This is really bad. It's not. It's nice when it's not you, Drew. Right? It's nice. It's,
Yeah, it's not me for once.
Jake, you might have to before you want to talk, you might have to put your hand up or something. Give us a visual prompt. Okay, everyone be
Hang on,
quiet.
I'll stop the video. It'll be fine.
Cool. Okay, quick initial
There we go.
thoughts. I'll start because I've always been quick to criticise Devon, but I think last month was fun, and I think this month looks fun as well. So credit where credit's due. I think we've had a good couple of months. Anyone want to say anything a bit nicer than that? But, I don't know.
I don't know if a bit nicer, but yeah, but the whitelist looks great. Splitting it in half was a good idea. Malamar's busted, so we're not even going to go there. I refuse to mention it probably for the rest of the video because that's just ridiculous. Should have been 7 points, but you know, it has like four answers, so at least they tried to balance it.
Drew? Okay,
Go on,
Jake.
I can't raise my hand, otherwise I would.
No, you can't. Yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah. Go on, Jake.
So as you said, I really enjoyed Crypt. I think it was one of the best custom methods that we've had in a significant amount of time. I'm less sold on this one, but I am willing to be sold on it. I just think that it seems a bit too, and please pardon the pun, it feels a little bit too chaotic.
Fair enough. Drew?
Just kind of mirror what Arrow said. I think Malamar, when you've got, the top picks on each side being Malamar and Auroras, and I think Malamar is about 3 leagues above Auroras. Yeah, I think Malamar deserves its own points bracket in itself.
Fair enough.
It's going to be very divisive, I think, this month with that one.
See, the thing is, I don't know how I feel about picking a 5 point mon because if you pick a 5 point mon, it means you're likely to have at least two 1 point mons, and the 1 point mons are so bad.
If you're not picking Malamar, then you're playing this cup wrong.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you reckon? I'm almost certainly not going to have. I'm almost certainly not having that.
I think I'd rather combo Malamar with a couple of three-pointers.
The problem with comboing Malamar is then that's your entire strategy. And what do you do against something that doesn't have a Malamar? Because you're going to be too heavily focused on beating Malamar that you're going to have to cut corners on beating other things. And there's going to be a ton of people who have Malamar and the bodyguards for Malamar that you now can't beat.
Yes.
Fair point.
Absolutely, my thinking exactly, Jay. Absolutely. Okay, Drew's up. So we're talking only about the cheap picks tonight. So I set everyone a limit of 2 point maximum. Drew's the only one who's used his full allocation of 2 points. The rest of us have gone one. So we'll let Drew start with. Actually, I think possibly, if not the best 2 point mon, the second best 2 point.
So yeah, my pick is Pokedex number 119, Seaking. So when I first saw the meta a few hours ago, noticed dragons. I noticed a few, should we say, dragon counters, Jumpluff, Abomasnow. And I thought, what can hit all of those? You've got Poison Sting for your grasses. You've got Icy Wind for your dragons. And in fact, Icy Wind will take the other two as well. There are other grasses, but I won't go into those because they'll be discussed later. And yeah, this is an outrageous shout even by my standards. I honestly believe Sea King here is a poor man's dugong.
Yeah.
It has that Icy Wind. They both have Drill Run. One has, obviously, Ice Shard. One has Poison Sting.
Jab.
I know.
Poison jab.
Poison Jab.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No.
There you go.
The inferior poison sting.
That shows how much homework I've done on my pick.
Well, you've not had very long, to be fair.
No. But yeah, I just think here, like you say, if you are picking, say, a Malamar, and the rest of your team, or the vast majority of your team's got to be kind of bottom of the barrel, points-wise, why not pick up a Sea King? It can, it has a multi-role feature to it. Drill Run will still hit a lot of mons, even for neutral damage here. There are some old school poison jabbers. Got Nidoqueen knocking about. If you can get shields down, one hit KO on that. Yeah, and I just think it's a great mod. I know you guys are going to shit all over it, but
No, I think it's really good. I think what is interesting though is Aaron and Jake and I have all picked them on from the other side of the pool, and the fact that you've gone from the I don't know what you guys think, but I think the side with Sea King and Malamar is better. Like there's more options there.
yeah.
And so there's an opportunity cost to picking Sea King. Like let's say you're picking Malamar and then you're picking Sea King.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden you can only run one of a good dragon or a Milotic or a Cresselia. Like you probably can't run Cresselia and Malamar. You probably wouldn't. Like there's and there's some good at one point is on that side as well, like Lapras, Lugia is decent, Articuno is decent. Like running something from that, running a cheap mon from that side, does that put you off at all?
No, not really. Like, I looked at Lapras. I know Jake was looking at something else, ice type wise, and there's a reason why he dropped it.
Because it's shit.
Correct.
Yes.
It's shit.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at, should we say provisional rankings. Obviously, move sets aren't kind of set in place and things like that. I mean, Sea King kind of sits middle ground across, the whole meta, presuming that everything has its ideal move set. So 2 points. Yeah, I don't think 2 points is that much to give up here. I know we're all saying Malamar. If you don't run Malamar, you're stupid.
We're not saying that.
I'm gonna be stupid this month and not run Malamar.
Business as
yeah,
usual.
and I just think Sea King does a job here. Basically, it's good. Yeah, there is an argument for something like Lapras with that extra bulk, and obviously, I think it's a point cheaper. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
I just think Sea King is quicker as well. If I'm not mistaken,
Yeah,
it's quicker to
Then
that can make a
Lapras.
huge difference. I know you've got that bulk. Lapras could sit there and sponge, but yeah, I just want Sea King to do a very niche thing for me this month. I mean, it also has the option of Megahorn. You know what I mean?
So what's Drill Run actually hitting it? Like Tentacle? That's kind of it, really.
Yeah, I mean,
The rocks.
I personally think Tentacle's too expensive. In fact, I hate Tentacle. I think it's a shit mon. And I know that's, again, outrageous, but it's just one of those Pokemon I've never liked. I've tried it a few times, could never get to grips with it. And if I can avoid running it, I will.
Fair enough.
But
Yeah, I guess to Aaron, I guess to your point, it's like Regirock and Relicanth on the inside. Pretty decent, I guess.
Yeah, Aurorus, Regirock, Relicanth,
Overall,
Barbaracle could be an interesting one.
it's true.
It has played into a lot of mons here. I think the biggest thing is that all of the poisons bar Tentacruel, I think it's Shadow Tentacruel, lose to Malamar. You're getting a pseudo poison here that goes 1v1 with it. You can hit grasses. The coverage is phenomenal, as we've seen. Ground, ice, poison. There's not much that'll wall it. I don't think there's actually anything that'll wall it at all. And it's 2 points. I think the 1 and 2, finding the value in the 1 and 2 pointers is where the best teams are going to come from here. Because if you want to run something like a 5-2-4s and then 3 1s, you can easily do that. I don't think the 1 pointers are as bad as they seem. Comparing
there's some really good 1 pointers in there that kind of hidden gems.
100%. Comparing it to Lapras is probably a bit harsh on Seaking because Lapras is now dead. Its pacing is absolutely ruined with the Surf nerf. But yeah, I think Seaking will be on a fair few teams because they want a water type that has grass coverage. Not that I don't think we'll see too many grasses given how broken the dragons are. But at least you've got the coverage if you want to run some kind of double water line and then they bring a grass type.
I think what we're forgetting as well, the one-shot Mega Horn on a Malamar will be glorious.
No, fair enough. Jake?
I was going to say that Seaking, unless you are in that Mega Horn and you land them by surprise, I do agree that I think Seaking could have less here because I think that the charge moves that it has, I think are really good. It could be really useful, but I just don't. I don't see Seaking being all that, just because it's a little bit too frail, and it just doesn't quite do enough of what you want.
Okay, let me ask you this, Jake. Is it worth spending the 2 points to upgrade it for Tentacruel?
I don't even know if I'd bring Tentacruel, to be honest with you. Other than I guess, Tentacruel's there for fast move pressure because you just want to jab at stuff. And Seaking has a little bit of that because you can artificially inflate its bulk with Icy Winds. And I think in this kind of meta, I think that shield players are going to be very important because there's not tons of bulky mons. And all your bulky mons are very expensive. So it's if you want to spend... Well, all of your bulky mons. Lapras is at 1 point, Blastoise is at 1 point.
Yeah,
but
Suicune.
The majority of the, what can you say, the top ones are all going to be really expensive. And I think that it's going to be difficult to justify trying to fast move stuff because you're just going to be spending shields and getting not a lot out of it.
Fair enough. Interesting. I think Tentacruel to be really, really fucking good here. True, I do. So it's interesting that you guys are not sharing that.
I live to be proven wrong.
Yeah, I think the one thing it has over Seaking is its Golisopod matchup because Golisopod looks very, very good. It's on 3 points. Its Malamar matchup and moveset versatility are probably within the top few in the cup.
Yeah.
You've got Mew in there if you want to lose all your TMs, but I don't get Mew here. I think
Yeah.
some teams do well with it on that surprise
I
factor.
think Mew could have a good niche, but it's not going to be running standard movesets because I think
Yeah.
nothing except for I think there's literally one thing in the entire cup that resists Dragon Claw. And I think how spammy Dragon Claw can be and how useful it is.
Yeah.
I can see an argument for Dragon Claw being used.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think the thing with Galactopod and Mew as well is they're on the kind of the weak side of the draw, so to speak, as well. But
yeah, which makes them very easy picks.
Yeah, for sure.
I think most teams will probably have a Galactopod simply because of how good Malamar is. Whether or not they run the cutter, I'm not sure it's the play. Just simply because of what Shadow Claw can give you into mons that should be beating Galactopod. Especially if you...
One thing I will say is if we are doing 2-point picks on that side of the board, I'd be more inclined to go with... I mean, we all know how much I love Gyarados, so there's no surprises here that Gyarados would be at the top of my list for 2-point picks. But again, Flygon is there, and Flygon with Shadow Flygon with Dragon Tail is just going to go nuts. If you do want fast move pressure.
I think with Flygon though, there is a I think it's a 3-pointer here that is absolutely shutting down a lot of dragons, and I think it's going to be on a hell of a lot of teams.
And the thing with Flygon is because of that ground type, you don't get the water resistance, you don't get grass resistance, and you don't get the opportunity to hit back. You don't get the opportunity to hit back into ice either. Because ice just
you do get the opportunity to hit back, to resist poison.
You do, but so does Giratina and Dragapult, and they have the good resistances still.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to Seeking, what I was thinking as well when I decided to stupidly pick it to talk about, I was thinking that if you run it in the back, and I know we've just said like you can't poison jab stuff, there isn't much here you can poison jab through. However, if you don't think about what you're poison jabbing down potentially, in terms of you go for the snipe 1-2 turns, it's not about the fact that you're killing the Pokemon that's already in the matchup. It's actually that extra energy you're getting. I think that's more valuable here than actually, should we say, getting rid of the opponent's existing Pokemon. Do you know what I'm trying to clutch
the
out
soft
there?
loss? The soft loss.
Not even a soft loss, because I'm talking literally potentially giving up your own switch for that extra energy. So not only are you getting up energy, you're potentially drawing out something that you don't want left lurk in the back. I mean, because Icy Wind is Icy Wind. We all know what it does. That can flip matchups in itself.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, on the topic of dragons and dragon resistance, let's move to Aaron.
Yeah, sure. So I went with Heatran and specifically the Shadow one because, as far as I'm aware, nobody has a Great League regular one. Morton might be meant to correct me now.
We do. We got it from Sinnoh. It was level 15 one.
Yeah. Well, so basically no one has one because everybody was out trading their Giratinas and forgot to ask for Heatrans. I actually do.
Can't help but notice.
Yeah, I did actually go and get one, but I think the Shadow's where it's at, and most of the matchup I'll mention are for that. So its Malamar matchup is horrific unless you keep shields, and even then you lose if they double bait. You wall pretty much all decent type damage in. I don't think ground's going to play a big part here outside of coverage. So there's no fighting. The waters are going to be big, but how big will really depend on how well it does. So really what you're there to do is, like we've said, soft lose, set up something else. I don't see anything breaking Heatran Malamar, but that's just because of how good Malamar is. But if you soft lose and side wave down, Malamar with an energy advantage is insane. Malamar with a shield advantage beats, in the 1-0s, beats 90 something % of the meta. There is one mon that actually beats it with a shield deficit in the 1/0s, and I'm pretty sure that's just jump buff because of its bulk. There's no fairies, so Malamar's damage is good everywhere. But it's one of those 1-point picks where you're thinking you protect Malamar from fairy damage because you double resist that, which is going to be rare fairy damage. There's probably, I think, about 2 or 3 mons that actually have it. But you're protecting it from that. You beat the dragon. Well, you don't beat the dragons well, but you do resist the dragon damage. And if you're going with Giratina, you're sacrificing potentially Malamar, which I don't think people will do. That gets destroyed by Malamar. It's not a comfortable matchup because of the pacing. Dragapult is just a glass cannon version of that, and I don't think we'll see many. The best dragon here is probably actually going to be Gyarados, and that again, yeah. So you resist the fast moves. If you play around it with the new switch timer, you can run Stone Edge. That's fine. Magma Storm is an incredible move. Does a lot of damage. I think it's going to be one of those mons that you bring into very specific teams, but those teams will have one answer for it, and you just draw that answer out and sweep with a shield or energy advantage. If it's Malamar in the back and you're in a 1v1, it's game over, unless you call the superpower where it's going to be. But if you do that, you're gambling. I just think the Dragon Resist is going to be so important just to stop people running double Dragon Tail. So, you beat Flygon if they don't bait you, because the pacing is basically the same. Buffed Fire Spins now, making that very, very close. You can't just go straight Dragon Claw, which is really good. And I don't see the other dragons seeing much play outside of that at all. I know the dragon, everyone's going dragon damage, this, that, and the other, but ice looks very strong.
Yeah.
I don't, there's the rock type, sure, but are you going to run rock types in a meta where the best mon has crazy pacing, fighting coverage?
Yeah.
Pretty sure all of them lose to it in an even shields, even energy. Even down a shield, I'm pretty sure Malamar probably just tanks a move from them, baits and superpowers and wins. So I think the rock damage is just going to be so rare. So ice is probably just going to run rampant. Which ice types will be the big sort of play? If you don't have water coverage, then you're probably not going to be losing there.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, the ice types I look at. My thinking is that if you can't get to Aurorus, if you can't afford Aurorus, maybe you go a Bomber Snow, but otherwise you maybe take a 1 point, right? And it's kind of like the 1 point for a reason, and because they're frail and they're going to be fast in an instant, right? So
yeah, the only one that could realistically threaten is probably Piloswine, but if you're running Mud Slap on it, you're giving up super effective damage into so many mons.
Yeah, you can't not run an ice type class move.
Ice class move, exactly. So you take care of those. How big the waters are be probably the defining aspect of this cup. Like every other cup ever that waters are allowed to be good in. We're going to go on to another one at some point, and I genuinely think that maybe the most versatile mon in the cup moves set wise after Golisopod, and they both function very similarly for basically 4 points. You're talking a quarter of your points, 2 of your picks. It leaves you in a good spot to build higher point picks around that. Heatran makes a good third to those 3, and you're looking at 2 mons that are targeted Malamar, which we're already looking at as the best mon here, and a third one that resists one of its moves and still forces them to debuff themselves. And I like the idea of having a team that essentially doesn't have a dark weakness here. Then Malamar comes in and goes, oh well, I have to start debuffing myself to at least threaten mons. So mons that live a foul play are going to be great here. if you force, you can just play the zeros, just soft lose against it. Come in with the big, heavy ones that have got shadows, high damage, things like that. Dragons up a shield, that kind of strategy would be really good here.
Yeah. No, I can't argue with anything you said there. No, the only thing, like I really like Dragapult here, so I'm surprised you think it's got. I'm surprised you think it's perhaps not as good as I think it is, but then if you're thinking Malamar's going to be on every team, I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, it'll be great in the twos, right? Astonish is, it's like second best move in the game. I think the attacking and damage here is probably going to make it the second best move in the meta outside of Psywave, which we're only seeing on 1-1. Yeah. It is going to be good. I do like a different Astonish user, but we might get onto that a little bit later on with the other picks, just because it loses to basically everything but Heatran. But it's just got really good coverage again. But yeah, Astonish could be good. I just don't like Dragapult when Giratina's there. If it was 3 points, I would say yeah, 100%.
Because it is 3 points.
Oh, if it was 2 points even, because Giratina.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, they're both 3 points.
It feels like a strict upgrade because if you want to go fast move pressure with a dragon, run Dragon Tail on Giratina. Because I don't think, as far as I'm aware, there are that many normals here, if any. So Giratina with double ghost and a dragon fast move, you're laughing.
Yeah, fair. Drew, Jade, any Heatran thoughts?
I'll let you go first, Drew, if you want.
Go on then. I think it's one of those mons like accessibility. Obviously, we've all got a Shadow Heatran. That's not the accessibility issue. The issue is having one that's actually viable. When Aaron said that he was going to cover Heatran, I went straight into my storage. I had a look. I've got a 1468 CP or a 1509. It's absolute garbage. I mean, so straight away, Aaron's saying basically Shadow or Bust. That straight away rules out Heatran. So I do think there is a slight, accessibility issue with that Pokemon. Again, that's not Aaron's problem when he runs it and has success with it. That's a Drew problem. But yeah, I think these niche picks like the Giratina Origin, the Shadow Heatran, actually being able to pick up a good one with decent, should we say, typical PvP IVs, it's very difficult to come around. I've still not actually got a Giratina myself, so
you should just go around random strangers in the street and ask them.
Jake, look at the state of me. If I started approaching random strangers in my town, I'd get arrested.
Yeah, mate, don't talk to kids. That's.
Just go to, when you've got a big community or something, find a meetup and just find people. Like when it was Sinatov, I think it was me, Aaron, and Jan. I think Callum was there. Just going around. I think I must have asked about 70 people in the day. Just, excuse me, can't help but notice that you're playing Pokemon Go. Do you have a Giratina that you're trading? I managed to get everybody.
Make yourself a big sandwich board.
Yeah. Just wander around the streets with it.
Yeah.
I think about 3 weeks ago, I was in work and I asked people who were actual customers if they had Giratinas to trade.
Oh God.
But yeah, go on. Accessibility issues, Drew.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it is. I think it's going to upset a few people this month. I don't know
absolutely agree.
that are legendary in this. I could probably just check it now, but it's a fair few. Not all of them are as expensive as Giratina, sure, and not all of them are that good. But it's a whitelist meta. There are roughly about 70 mons, including shadows. A seventh of the meta, maybe a little bit more, are legendaries. The birds have all being released, and people should or can have them, but not many people do. Outside of the shadows, if you don't want to run the shadow, you can't use it. Giratina is the most inaccessible mon in all of PvP. Maybe outside of Shadow, Kanto, Marowak, but that's been in Rockets, and we didn't know it was going to get buffed, so it's a different story. Yeah, and I mean, even Dragapult, there'll be people that don't have one. There'll be people that can't trade for them.
I could build a Dragapult, but I don't think it's worth building one for this meta, to be honest.
It's fairly new. You know, we're talking a couple of months. There'll be more casual players. I feel like just because the best mons in the meta are really accessible doesn't mean you can get away with sticking a load of ones that people just don't have in there. You know, Giratina takes a fair few trades. It's not the hardest one to get, but it is really difficult to find anyone who has one now. It's basically all been absorbed by the best of the players who want them. The players have probably taken like half the Giratinas in the world just for themselves, and then most of those have got binned. We'll most likely not get another one. Including it is a big statement, I think, and I don't know if we'll see it again if people get upset about this. I don't have a problem with it because I have them, but I feel for the people who go, "Oh, Giratina looks great here," or they lose to one and they go, "Well, if I had one, I could have won this."
Yeah, it's that age-old argument, though, isn't it? Like, I mean, you could spend 20 minutes on Twitter after a certain event, and people are just, crying about, can't get this. I've got no community. I've got no one to trade with, and all this. I mean, PvP is just all about adapting. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and cry all month because I don't have Giratina. I honestly don't think I would have ran Giratina anyway this month if I did have it. I'm very much of, if dragons look great, I want to counter the hell out of them, which plays into your Heatran.
Which is 100%, yeah. Which is 100% the way I would like to look at it. But for the fact that, Sylph is gone, Devon isn't as big. It's not really a controversial statement that most of the players now are people who play because they enjoy the game or because they have been playing PvP for a long time.
Yeah.
If a newer player came to this and saw the list of mons on there, how many of them do they realistically have the ability to build within the next month or so? And again, getting into PvP is difficult. But there are very few mons on there that, first of all, are even spawning now. And second of all, are easy to get.
I actually do. So there's a couple of points there. The Heatran that I'll get back to, but accessibility issues. I actually think if you look through this list, other than a couple of them, there are a ton of things on here that are really accessible. If we ignore elite TMs and stuff like that, Malamar is easy to get. NK is all over the place. Jumpluff, you don't really need acrobatics on it because Aerial has got buffed and it's all good now.
Need a good one.
Dragapult is out and about. It is good. You've got to grind for it, but if you've never had one before, it's on you nearby. You can go get, most people can go get one, and having one is more important than having good IVs if you're just getting in.
Absolutely. Especially on an attack weighted man like that, right?
Exactly. Realistically, you can probably run a 15-0-0 and you'll hit a shit ton of breakpoints against stuff.
Probably be better off because it's going to die to fast moves.
Exactly. Gyarados, yeah, it needs an elite TM to run Aquatail. But Gyarados, when was the last time you didn't see a Magikarp on a day-to-day basis? I'm not going to go through the entire list because there's 50 things and I'm just lazy. But I think there are a ton of things on this list that you can get, and you could build a team if you spent a week out and about trying to catch some of these things. And while some of the stuff that we've discussed is inaccessible, it doesn't mean that you're at an absolute standstill. Yeah, you might be at a little bit of a disadvantage because you don't have some of these really good picks like Giratina or triple Legacy Seeking, but it doesn't mean that you're going to instantly lose against a team where one of these shows up. As long as you get good into your team building, you know what you're doing, you've got a plan, and you're confident in what you're doing. I do agree that Devon is a lot more focused on people who have been around for a while. Like the four of us have been playing since at least season 2.
Yeah.
Of Sylph, which is what, 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got the majority of stuff built, and we've got stupid stuff built as well to compensate for those.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure I've got an Uxie built already.
And I think as well something to consider is that Devon can't piss a lot of people off because a lot of people don't play Devon. So I'm not too concerned about that.
So I know you can't see me, but it's the smallest gap between my fingers. I was this close to picking Heatran before Aaron did, and before I settled on my pick. And the whole thing we were saying about accessibility issues and everything, blah, 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 blah. Fuck it. I don't care. It's a good mon. And if you can use it, I think you should. Because Devon is more for people who have played a while and who've been around the block, and we've got everything that is fun. And now it's a case of, okay, how do we get new things to be fun? And I'm all for that because I think it's important to keep things fresh, not just for the new players, but for the ones who've been around already and who want to try something new. So, if it comes around to the fact that we all play and we get a bit RPS'd by Malamar by just taking out a Heatran, at least you've done something fun and at least you tried something new. And I probably reckon that if I can find a way to get Heatran on a team, I will be doing it.
Yeah, fair. I haven't got my Shadow Heatran yet, so if I run a Heatran, it'll only have one move, and I still am semi-considering it, like truthfully. I couldn't agree more with you there. And I think actually
the Shadow Heatrans that Aaron and I got are both very not suitable for Great League, but it's still I still would run it.
Yeah, well, that's it, isn't it? And I know Aaron also, as I did, ran Magmortar in Crypt and really enjoyed it. I think, right? So, I can get on board with the Heatran wolf for sure.
I think the stats really don't matter because you'll have more IVs than Drew, and that's all that really matters because his mons are useless. And as long as you're in close to 1500 with a mon like this, you're fine. It's not going to be the rank 1. It physically can't be the bulkiest because it's a shadow. Just run it. If you've got one, run it. I think having a look at the provisional rankings, Regirock and Heatran both in the top 10. Yeah, the only issue is that they've put so many of these mons in there. Not all of them are great, sure, but that's the only problem I have with it. Everything else, 100% more fun. Definitely aim towards players who have been around the block. Yeah. Whether or not it's going to pay off and we see more of it would be interesting.
One last thing I was going to say is that the waters that are around, a lot of them have subtypings that make them no longer resist fire. So we've got Golisopod, the water bug. We've got Lapras, the water ice. Cloyster, which is shit, the water ice. Don't bring Cloyster. Can confirm is shit. But yeah, I think Heatran's in a very good position to actually make an impact this month, and I'm all for it. So cracking pick out.
I also think the waters that don't resist fire are just squishy. Tentacruel versus Heatran is going to be painful if they're running, if you're in Earth Power for coverage. Golisopod is, again, not resisting fire, but Stone Edge exists. The Rock Waters, pretty sure Heatran gets Iron Head.
It
Yes.
does.
It does.
You have coverage for pretty much whatever you want to go after. If you start with Heatran and build outwards and pick your coverage move first, you can cover the other ones you're not hitting for at least a decent chunk of damage. I'm assuming it doesn't one-shot Tentacruel because it's a fairly decent, but you're probably one-shotting Barbaracle, Golisopod, things of that nature. I'm assuming you probably come close to beating Lapras just straight fire moves.
I'm sure you do beat Lapras like that. So Magmortar does, so surely he's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
the
similar.
pacing on it is really good.
Is it 4 fire spins or is it 5-4?
4-4. Yeah, it's 4-4.
4-4.
That is
Nice.
very fast to a pretty decent move with Starve and Shadow bonus.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of ones are going to like it. And defensively, it's a steel type. They are just ridiculous. It's just the best defensive typing in the game. Fire here, it's very strong offensively. It's a great pairing.
For sure. And something it beats really well is my pick, which is, and in the absence of Dan, I'm going to say the dex number. It's dex number 254, which is Sceptile. Drew, you've run Sceptile before, right?
I've run Sceptile and Grovyle.
All right, okay. So that's the first thing I wanted to say is that don't expect great things with it. It is a Drumon. It's the definition of a Drumon. But there are a lot of good water types here.
Yeah.
They're all bulky. Malamar's here. You're not going to beat Malamar with Sceptile, but as a one-pointer, there's not many one-pointers that hit as fast and hard as Sceptile with Leaf Blade. It's gonna set you up a lot of soft losses, which makes it a good pairing for Malamar, really, I guess, or the Sea King that Drew wanted. But really, the thing that I like about it is that I think a lot of teams will either be like triple water with like weird waters that don't do water things.
Yeah.
Like Milotic or Seeking or Gyarados, right? Or there'll be one water and it'll be Seeking. Or something like that, like just like a standard run of the mill water type. Yeah, like a plastics, that sort of thing.
Blastoise actually looks very good, just a tangent, very good.
Blastoise does.
Does
Yeah.
look completely beast.
Beats Malamar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we sharing the same brain cell right now?
Okay.
And those teams, like Sceptile is going to be really good at beating those straightforward water types, and also like it's not going to. Okay, it has the potential to lose hard into a lot of things because it's so flat, but like it's never going to let you down because you're pretty much always going to get a charge move through. Because it's so fast, and it's going to hurt pretty much everything. Like even if you end up with Sceptile against them now, like you'll lose that matchup fine, but you're going to get a huge chunk off with your one
9 turns to Leaf Blade is pretty big.
Yeah, you're going to get a huge hit off against their 5-player. And in terms of like how well it can take on, like even like Regirock and Aurorus, right? But I know we're not thinking Aurorus is going to be big, but Sceptile just straight up beats Aurorus in the ones and twos. I think the Shadow wins zeros and ones sort of thing. But I prefer the regular here. I think give yourself the opportunity to get fast, an extra move because they are so fast.
I think that's definitely the play. I also want to mention that Sceptile, if you run Fury Cut, just destroys Malamar. I don't think Bullet Seed is the way because you beat the waters anyway.
That's a good point.
You just absolutely ruin it. So you essentially you KO them before they get 2 moves off. So
Perfect.
you just win the ones if they no shield because you just farm down. So you leave
Nice.
the zeros is very sketchy because obviously you shield. But you do live the move. Everyone has a half decent Sceptile, I imagine, because it's had a community day, spawns a lot during many events.
And you don't need the Elite TM for it because you're on Leaf Blade.
Yeah.
Yep.
You
It's just better.
It gets coverage moves into the dragons. It has 2 of them now, so enjoy wasting your TMs on them. And
So just on that note, if we are recommending that you run a dragon move, don't run Dragon Claw because it is just a worse breaking swipe.
with the pacing, because breaking swipe is breaking swipe 4, right? So 2 more Fury Cutters, 2 turns.
Yeah.
Just run it for the.
I thought they were.
I think it's 40. I'm pretty sure.
I think it's 35-40, isn't it? Dragon
Yeah.
Claw. Yeah.
But it's 2 Fury Cutters. It's not a real difference, as we've seen with most 1-turn moves that charge this fast. You're gonna get that regardless because you're getting that 2 after Leaf Blade, and it may be able to do some matchups. You know,
I've just checked. They're both 35 energy, 50 damage. They're exactly the same move. But Breaking Swipe has the 50% chance to debuff.
yeah, that's
Okay,
even.
so it's breaking swipe.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but another thing I wanted to add is similar to your Heatran scenario, and what you were saying about how you can take Ironhead, you can take Stone Edge, take Earth Power, and cover different things. Sceptile also has Earthquake.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And if you find yourself in a scenario where actually you're really not liking the look of Tentacruel or not liking the look of Heatran, they don't know you've not. They don't know you've not got it, or they're either going to have to respect it. Like you can bait having it. You can go up to 65 energy before throwing your Breaking Swipe, or just straight up run Earthquake. Like if you know you're weak into poison types, put Earthquake on your grass type and just fuck them up. It's going to win you a game.
I think Earthquake would be the play. I like the dragon coverage, but which of the dragons is bulky enough to take an Earthquake?
Good point.
Giratina probably, but you're losing that regardless of your moveset.
Yeah.
Dragapult definitely isn't taking one. I'm going to say that right now. And you are getting, because as far as I'm aware, you probably outpace them, and the Fury Cutters actually do damage to it because it's made of actual paper. So I think Earthquake would be the play because grass types with ground type moves always look good. We don't have enough of them to actually have ever used them, but everything in this meta is kind of frail. Sceptile hits like a truck. Run quick, have some fun, and also even if you don't have Earthquake, you might pull a shield. If you do have,
they have to respect it.
Earthquake does 90%.
and also who can count Fury Cutters reliably? You might be at the Earthquake, you might not. You might throw the move on before and they shield anyway.
Yeah.
So
no, exactly.
Just in terms of Earthquake and a Heatran, you don't make it.
Because the way you do it is they swap Malamar, you come in and you Fury Cut all the way down, burn 1 shield. And
From full health.
I reckon you probably could get away with it straight Fury Cutter. There'll definitely be a break point there. You can try it, and then Heatran has to shield. If it doesn't, they've lost 2 months.
Yeah. Or you do the magical Drew strategy where everything starts with a 2 shield advantage and 50 energy up, right?
Yep.
It's a good strat.
Deal issue if you can't get yourself in that position.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, it's got a lot of potential here. And it's on the weak side of the draw. There's just not much else at one point. Like, I am a big Tangrowth fan. Like, any opportunity to run Tangrowth, I'll run Tangrowth. But it doesn't have the right level of
bulk to power sort of ratio to Tangrowth yet. Like it's not. It's bulkier than Sceptile, but not bulkier enough to justify its lack of damage output compared to Sceptile.
Yeah.
Like Sceptile, even compared to something like Cradily, right? Well, let's say we talked about Golisopod earlier. We talked about Golisopod earlier. If the argument is Sceptile and Golisopod, or Cradily and Kabutops, right? I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
I know where I'm going with this, right? So I just think it's a really good enabler, and it can actually be useful.
I think every grass type bar Sceptile has recently had a nerf that's in this meta. I'm not certain on that, but it's definitely pretty close. Other than maybe, I'm trying to think what else is there, Jumpluff, which is just
jump off.
Yeah,
Jumpluff looking like one of the best ones. I mean, it has a nerf with the aerial ace nerf, but it's been a terrible move for a long time before. Jumpluff it then.
Abomasnow's not had a nerf for a long time since Weatherball.
That's true as well.
But then Abomasnow doesn't necessarily do grassy.
No, that's an ice type that occasionally throws a grass move and then it gets shielded and you lose.
Yeah, exactly.
So the grasses here have had a recent nerf because Abomasnow is an ice type. I'm not hearing anything else about that. Cradily doesn't really mind, but I'm assuming here it might do because Golisopod's probably going to start living rock slides now. Stone Edge is too slow. I think the best grass is Jumpluff, then Sceptile, and then don't run one. Or find something with a grass move that's probably Mew, just run Grass Knot.
Do you know what? I'm going to look into Leafage Abomasnow here. Leafage Weatherball. No?
I was just going to say that.
Don't be.
I battled Holmesy using one a couple of years ago, and I lost.
No, not Razor Leaf. Not Razor Leaf. Leafage.
Oh, Leafage. Yeah.
It's going to come down to how many rocks are there to make that viable. If there's a lot of rocks about, 100% run it. If there aren't, then you're giving up dragon matchups pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? That's the problem.
Dragons, I think we'll see a Giratina, Flygon, and potentially Kingdra, which we haven't mentioned yet, but I actually really like the look of its water resist, like just walling the waters, not taking super effective from ice. It just does insane damage. And also, again, there's another one that I've forgotten, Artivax, which is incredible. I think it's probably the best dragon here.
I mean, our teams are going to be 6 different months. Like maybe we'll have Golisopod.
Oh yeah, we'll have Golisopod.
No, we'll have Golisopod and Malamar.
No, I'm not really Malamar.
But yeah, I think Artivax could be really, really good. It doesn't care about super effective damage because you're shielding it anyway.
Yeah.
So, how many fast? There's no fighting. There's no fairy. Where is the damage coming from for it? It's coming from rock, and there's no rock fast moves unless you run it. You forget to TM your Regirock, and it's got rock throw.
Rock throw, Aurorus.
That's not a real thing.
That's not a thing.
It's not real.
It's not real.
you could run that. Is it Dazzling Gleam on Jumpluff?
Okay, yeah.
So if you run Artivax, you run that with an ice type. Yeah, it's not an ice type. Same way Abomasnow is not aggressive.
Dragon Breath Avalanche, isn't it?
It's a dragon type.
Yeah.
But no.
Icy wins.
So does Abomasnow. It doesn't make it. It doesn't make it.
Doesn't make it an ice type.
Yeah.
It is an ice type. We've established this.
My only thing about Sceptile, Matt, is Aaron alluded to it. Jumpluff being so good, or potentially so good, and we've talked about off camera, kind of like where do you want to put your points, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Would you rather invest 2 extra points, say on oh no, it's not. Yeah, it's 2 extra points.
Yeah,
on Jumpluff on that side of the draw, or would you rather take, should we say, the bargain basement pick? I'm not saying Sceptile's like shocking mon.
No,
When you compare it to Jumpluff, you know, I think there's leagues apart.
yeah. So I think a good question is Jumpluff, is Sceptile to Jumpluff a bigger upgrade than Seeking for Tentacruel? I think that's a good question.
I would, yes.
Yeah. Jumpluff is really good.
I think
Yeah.
Jump will be top 5 usage, and I think it'll be on every single team that either doesn't have a Malamar or has just gone, I'm going to run 2 Malamar answers and Malamar as my 3 mons, as like those teams that just pick 3 mons that are going to run and then build around it to scare everything else off. I think that pair is crazy strong into everything. I don't think, off the top of my head, anything hard breaks that anyway. Just simply because of the typing. There are not many ice types, as we've said, because none of them are actually ice types that beat both of them. I don't think.
Yeah.
You know, Malamar has super effective damage into every single ice type because there's no ice types here that resist, or at least go neutral to the dark, the fighting damage. So it's an incredibly good pair. It only costs you half your points, and like I've said already once, the 1 point picks are massively underrated. I think very specific ones, sure. You know, I don't think we're going to see anyone running Mesprit because well, it is the worst of the trio. Just run Uxie instead. It is a better mon, and I think it's 1 point more. Just run
Yeah, it's 1 versus 2.
Yeah. They're just certain ones that are just instant write-offs, and I think people are overestimating how many of them are instant write-offs. It's probably not as many as you think. Every single 1 point pick is going to have a niche. Maybe not Mesprit, but you know.
I don't know.
Find me an argument for Archeops.
Archeops is awesome. It is just easily one of the coolest mons in the cup. There you go.
So just to come back to the Jumpluff argument, the big thing is that Sceptile's on the other side of the draw, right?
Yeah.
So if I have Sceptile rather than Jumpluff, I can run my Tentacruel and I can run my Dragapult. I have to drop one of them if I want Jumpluff.
You do, yeah.
If I'm running Malamar, which I'm not.
In the same kind of argument, do you think it's vital you run a dragon here? Like we've said, Malamar is almost a must bring.
So
do you think a dragon is that? You know,
no.
Because I personally don't. I don't see the need for a dragon here.
I don't think the mandatory. I think they will be on most winning teams stuff.
I think what I like about the dragons here is that the secondary resistances. So like we talked about poison resistance earlier. Like I quite like the idea of having a dragon that beats the poisons, or having something that beats the poisons. And there isn't really much there that does that. Here that does that. So all of a sudden, Dragapult, Jumpluff, and Flygon become good options for me. They just happen to be dragon types. Like Aaron mentioned, Kingdra and having the really good water resist. Like that's nice. Like I don't think you run a dragon because it's a dragon. I think you run a specific dragon because of the typing it has and the matchups it forces. I'm not going to start building around a dragon. I can start building knowing that I will have a dragon, but I can circle back to it at the end and pick which dragon I want based on the rest of the team.
Yeah, and how many points you have left over as well.
Yeah.
So cheaper, which is a big part of this meta, and it's going to massively benefit some people. If it's your first time in a points meta, you may be completely like, where do I start? And essentially you have 2 options. You either pick mons that you like in general, if you just want to run them and have fun, go for it. Or you pick some of the best mons in the cup and you build around them and cover them how you want. You know, there's all sort of other ways to come at it, but I think there'll be the 2 main ways people start. They either start with the 1 pointers and go, which of the cheap picks am I going to pick to get my Malamar in, or to get, you know, I don't think anyone's going to really run a Aurorus. We'll see. Let's try to get those picks in, or at least to try you could very easily have to go to 16. You could go with, I think you can get 4 4s in.
Yeah, 4 4s and 2 1s.
16.
No,
So you can get 3
16.
4s,
Oh, 3 4s.
16.
2s. No, 3 4s, a 2, and 2 1s.
Yeah.
Or something of that nature. So you pick your 2 1s and a 2 first, whichever side you want to go for. Fair enough. I think the best balance will be 2 from one side, 1 from the other, and then the opposite with the higher point picks. So I think we'll see a lot of teams with a 5 and a 4 from the Malamar side, or a 4 and a 4 from that side, because they are the better picks. And then they will find their cheaper options on the other side of the bracket where Sceptile's there, E-Trans there.
Yeah.
There are more mons on that side that look like it's almost like the quality for that side is in the lower picks. We're saying Aurorus doesn't look good. The higher point picks just in that side don't look great in general.
I don't know. Regirock seems nice. I like the look of
Yeah.
Regirock.
But is it going to be that great? I think outside of that, you have Regice, which is cool, but it's just a less Regirock.
It's not an ice type.
No, no, it uses normal type moves.
Yeah, you get all that damage from lock on.
I know, right?
Well,
Yeah.
you've got Rune, which actually could see some play depending on how much grass we see, just because of Astonish. And then you've got Glass for the artifacts.
That's an interesting one. Astonish rather than Shadowclaw.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
Astonish
it's
is one of the
just
best moves in the game currently.
It's just
People would probably recommend Shadowclaw if you run it on custom sims, but Astonish is just amazing. It has Brutal Swing now, so you've got a cheap move.
Yeah.
You don't need to be baiting with Sand Tomb anymore. I guess Rock Tomb if you want to cover ice, flying. You don't have to give up Shadow Ball, but I think if you run Shadowclaw, you run double nuke. I don't see what you're throwing Brutal Swings at, to be honest. You've already got a Ghost type moves, so you're not hitting anything with Dark that you're not hitting with Ghost.
But you're also not. There's no dark resists.
no.
No fairy or dark or
Which
fighting.
means that you can. There's no fighting either, which means that you could just use it as a shield burner.
Yeah.
You need to. It takes four charge moves now to get your switch clock back up, and you could very easily do that with something like this because it's bulky and it's going to live long enough to get 2-3 charge moves off itself.
And also with Brutal Swing now being 35, you get there on 4-3 with Astonish. So
That's mental.
that's 21 seconds. You're getting there because of the bulk. If you swap it in, what's really coming in on it that's not a water or an ice?
Sceptile.
You just
Sceptile's getting fucking farmed down by Astonish.
Take 2 shields on its way. It's all right.
Sceptile, if they get an Astonish lead, Sceptile probably loses the ones. So enjoy. Just don't shield if you're the Sceptile. That's the way you play that.
That's the way to play it. Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, it's going to be underrated, and I think that's because everyone's looking, Malamar, the Dragons. There are still good picks there, but that side of the bracket, I look at the 1-pointers and we're talking about them on here because we don't want to go over Malamar. But also, I think they look great. I don't think the description of they have nice coverage against some of the main meta, but their stats and damage aren't great. No. Hisuian Samurott looks amazing. There are so many picks in there that I think somebody should run an entire 1-point team and see how they actually do.
We all know that there are going to be at least a few people that do.
Yeah. And they will do.
Jake, tell us about your mon. You've got 10 minutes before the call dies.
On that beautiful little segue. So as Aaron just alluded to, there is a certain one that does look pretty good in this. And it's Pokedex number. Oh, it's going to be like a low 5.
It's using his seconds well.
Yeah, fuck that. It's 10 minutes, isn't it? Burn them.
Yeah.
503. And that is Samurott, but in this instance, it's the Hisuian Samurott. So Samurott is pretty famously not the bulkiest mon in existence. And this is no different. But what you trade off for bulk, you gain in hitting like an absolute truck. And again, you have Fury Cutter. And if you want something to take out the Malamar, you can basically just farm the entire way down. And yeah, again, you've got no bulk. So you don't want to get hit by shit. And you think, yeah, Malamar, that famous superpower user. Nah, fuck that. Use the shields. You're going to need them. So you can basically just spam out charge moves. You've got Icy Wind, you've got Dark Pulse, X Scissor, and then there's a water one.
Razor Shell. Dark Pulse is the one to use.
Razor Shell? Razor Shell.
Pulse.
But
Pulse is the one.
don't use that. You want a water type that doesn't do water type. I think any of the other 3 moves you could be in genuine contention for using, and I think there's a real argument to be made for running X's here, because yeah, you are going to beat the Malamar no matter what, but there's one pick that none of us have mentioned at all tonight, and that's Cresselia. And there's definitely the fact that people just love using Cresselia. It's a solid mon. It's bulky as can be, and there's going to be at least one that you come across in a tournament. And I think if you've got the ability to be a water type that beats Cresselia, it's just nuts, because those Psycho Cuts are just doing nothing to you. I don't think it's going to surprise to anybody how much I enjoy using Samurott. And I think this is going to be another instance where using Samurott is worth it.
I'm going to jump in here because I actually built a Hisuian Samurott for a catch cup a few months ago, and what I will say is, yes, it's a really good Malamar. I can't remember I'm sure it will be, but as a mon, it is dreadful. It is really, really bad.
But that's the point of these kind of tournaments. You're not doing a play Pokemon tournament. You're not doing a Pokemon Grid. We are here to make the less useful, more interesting things shine.
I'm aware, but what I'm going to say is if you're not up against a Malamar, do not expect it to shine. Like, expect it to be dead weight, because or a Crest, fine, I'll give you that. And look, I like it here. I was going to talk about this until Jake decided to talk about it, so I had to accept that. Like, I think it's a good mon, and it has every right to be on your 6 purely because it beats Malamar, and it beats Malamar really well. But if you're going to actually use it, expect to be heartbroken and lose badly when it's not like that against Malamar, because it's really bad.
One of those mons that needs to be super effective.
If you use Hisuian Samurott and lose, don't complain that it's an RPS cup, because you've picked the one that loses to 80% of the meta, and that's on you. That's what I'll say about it. But I think it's justifiable, but like, using it well is the next thing, because it is the issue, because it's not going to bench pressure your opponent out of bringing Malamar, because they can still hit you with a superpower, and Malamar's still going to beat everything else in your team. So
I think the big matchup you want to probably point out here is the fact that it doesn't beat Jumpluff, even if you land an Icy Wind.
There you go.
Yeah, because Jumpluff is built different.
They don't care. They just no-shield it and live so comfortably. Its Crest matchup is going to be sketchy. And I'm actually certain you'll beat Crest. Because Grass Knot and Moonblast will be the moves it's running. If it's running Future Sight, then you deserve to be beating them. Because what are you throwing Future Sight? It's not. There's no
So
point.
I did look into this. The only way that you beat Cress, because you can't run Dark Pulse and beat it. You have to be using X's, which then I think all three of the potential fast charge moves have got niche uses, and it's just about where you see things going for your cup, because Dark Pulse brings in other things that X-Scissor doesn't. I'm trying to get the Sims back up now. But it's going to be a very bait-dependent mon. And I'm trying to phrase it as bait-dependent rather than just inconsistent, because that makes it seem a little bit more positive. But I do think that Samurott could have some very good uses here, because as we were talking about dragons earlier, and we were talking about Giratina in particular, you wall Giratina if they're not running Dragon Tail. And you could use any of the potential moves that you want there. You could use Icy Wind and X-Scissor, or you could use Dark Pulse, because any of them is going to hit. Like a combination of any two of those three will
Dark
always
Pulse-
have a super effective move.
Dark Pulse is the way, because there will be once you inevitably get yourself into a bad situation with the Sumi and Samurott. If you're relying on Icy Wind and X-Scissor as your damage output, you don't like Dark Pulse is going to hurt. Doesn't matter what you hit, it is going to hurt. Like hitting a Dark Pulse on something keeps you in a game, right? I think Dark Pulse is non-negotiable personally on Samurott.
I think that's where it falls short, because I don't like Fury Cutter for it, which seems crazy in a cup where Malamar's so good, because it's just not stab. You're not out damaging things because you're taking crazy damage back. It just doesn't feel like it's going to be good enough. Upper Shield, it will be that level of it's just going to two-shot everything. But there's 9, 10, maybe more of those mons here. Upper Shield means game over most likely, unless you are jump up and you're going into Malamar.
Yeah. Why then, Aaron? Why do you like Fury Cutter on Sceptile but not on Hisui and Samurott?
I just feel like Sceptile has the stab move is the difference. Leaf Blade is busted. It's on a grass type. You're not running Razor Shell, as we've said, because you're not bad at the game. Dark Pulse is your next stab move, and you're not getting there fast enough. And I have simmed Snarl and Fury Cutter. They're both pretty garbage, which is annoying because the typing is really good. Dark Water is really good here. But I feel like if you're going to run it, you have to manage the switch clock. You have to manage the energy. It's going to be one of those picks that does really well in the hands of someone who is counting, catching, switching, and running it alongside bulky mons, which, as we've said, they're not that easy to get in here because everything is getting to moves in 10 turns and switching. They can debuff themselves, swap out, go into a mon that charges just as quick, throw 2 moves, shield 1, they're switching back in. I think it's just one of those mons that will get outplayed or outbulked. Its coverage is
I
phenomenal.
I can definitely see outbulked, but I think outplayed is. I don't think that's the right way of phrasing it.
No,
because you can say that about literally any mon.
I think it's just going to struggle in a lot of matchups, which will lead you having to play perfectly. It's not a forgiving mon to run. That's, I think, the better way to put it.